Well, I mean, brands have evolved dramatically over the last few years in adult use cannabis. The first brands on the market were the brands that were in it already who transitioned into the legal space. And then as sort of people started to look for differentiation, there was opportunity for brands to evolve. I think for us and what I've seen in other brands as well, once everyone has already gotten high and then they've looked for a way to differentiate, now when I come back, what's next? We're all looking for something that speaks to us. So we've started to see brands come to segment the market. I know in my space, the first sort of female-ish brands before there was an opportunity for us to come in were sort of low dose craft packaging, pink pens, sort of stuff maybe for a child more than a woman. Sort of the first take on what a woman in cannabis might like, but then it's gotten much more sophisticated from there. And I've seen it in other sectors of the market. Brands coming forward as exotics, as specialty in sauce or specialty in flour, and people really starting to differentiate themselves so consumers know where to go. I'm thinking about California when I say this because that's where we've been the longest. So in California, I've seen probably over the last 3 years, more design-centric brands, more money going into packaging, more companies who, like ours, who identified their customer first before starting to create product. And then you start to see brands that sort of can really resonate with normalized product, sort of taking cannabis to the next level. And that's really what brands can do in cannabis. And that's what we're trying to do, in our effort to normalize cannabis and remove the stigma of cannabis. We are coming in like a cosmetics brand, like, the way we address our customer is the same way I have always sold luxury products to women in my other ventures. And now we're just talking about cannabis, but we're addressing them in the same way. So, and we're starting to see other brands do that. Like our press, we're in Newsweek this week. That's where we're going because that's where our customer is reading. They're not necessarily reading Dope magazine. So for us, new brands coming in and brands targeting regular mainstream consumers is where I'm seeing the growth. And that's really where we want cannabis to go because we want those mainstream consumers coming into our space.
I love that. And if I may jump in too, just to add on to that, I think the one thing, Allison really hit the head on is like, niche focused brands that serve actual intentional purposes. Cannabis at a point will become, a commodity, no different than cacao is to Hershey's chocolate. So when you look at intellectual property and you look at formulas and, ingredients, this is the intellectual property that will ultimately become staple brands in the cannabis industry and stand a test of time. If you're not focused on how you're helping solve the problem on behalf of the consumer or the consumer journey or that niche market you're essentially going after, you're missing out on a huge opportunity. I've found it, because I've been in the industry for, over 13 years now. I started with my agency. We were the very first cannabis-focused branding and marketing firm in the world. And so when, dispensaries were the only clients that we had, it was a completely different conversation. But now we've entered into a time where brands don't even need licenses in order to be a brand. You can create, licensing deals or rather contract manufacturing deals with companies all throughout the world and theoretically. And if you have the relationships, you can build a brand, a national brand fairly quickly.
In California, I find like there's not really any celebrity-led brand that's actually done well. I mean, Jay-Z's monogram, like we have yet to see, like the Gary Payton's at Cookies, like that sold off the strength of the Cookies brand, not the Gary Payton brand. It's like they're already arguably the hottest brand in cannabis. It's like you look at companies that are actually killing it, not like killing it and spending $40 million of investor dough, but like Jim, it's like a CannaCraft, like the strength is in the supply chain. The strength is that they can put out so much high quality product that they have like a tangible asset. It's like, I basically have been running like a brand that like has had to live off of like, white labeling and co-packing and all these other like whoring yourself out to other people to basically get on their license because I was 23 and 24. Now that we're in an area where it's like, if I didn't have my farm, which just got legal after basically running it for the past like 5 years in Northern California, like Stone Road would 100% be out of business. Like there's no amount of like brand equity or like goodwill that would have like kept us in business if we didn't have like a hard asset to fall onto. I think where a lot of people are getting in trouble now are like, you see brands that actually don't have hard assets or don't have some type of interest in a hard asset, whether it be ideally cultivation, but even in manufacturing, get absolutely killed on the margins. It's like a lot of us are on things where it's like, if the product doesn't sell in 90 days, we're on like a cascading down price point where our margin just shrinks. So it's like you make one miscalculation, you get one bad lab result, it's $150,000 loss. So it's like, as a small brand in California, and it's like we're in Oklahoma, but that's like an entirely different world. Like the strength is in the supply chain. It's like people don't give a shit that we spend, $5,000 a month on photographers for our Instagram. It's like, it's cool, but like that's not what's getting them to buy. It's like consistently better product at consistently better prices.
Thanks, everybody. And Jonathan, appreciate the opportunity to be here. From our perspective at CannaCraft, we consider ourselves a house of brands, and we focus on that quite a bit. We do have cultivation, we do have manufacturing, but for us, it's really important that we're resonating with the consumer. Are we actually authentic? Do they trust us? And when this business really opens up with interstate commerce, are these brands that we're building going to be able to cross into other states? And for us, it's really important that we have that authenticity. We're telling the story behind the brand. When we go to our dispensary customers, they trust that we're going to have the inventory. We're going to supply them on a very efficient basis. But I'm also seeing a pivot with dispensaries where previously they would pretty much take anything in, and there was a little bit of a lot of spend on shelf fees and the like that they were requiring. And I've seen that in other industries, in food and drug, where slotting fees almost became addictive, and they weren't spending the time on the brands and what the customers were looking for. I'm hoping cannabis doesn't do the same thing. We need to be looking at brands and sort of be selling out, not just selling into dispensaries. We've got to ensure we're bringing in more customers, those customers that haven't used cannabis in so long but want to come back in. How do we get them into the market again? I think it's going to be through trusted brands, and that's where we're going to continue to work.
I totally agree with that. I mean, that's our model and our philosophy completely. How can we delight the customer? It's not enough that our package is gold and it's beautiful, but it comes with a gold lighter, and our crutch is 40 millimeters long so it doesn't melt your eyelashes and your manicure. And when you take it out, it feels feminine, and the strain is low munchy, high energy, feminine feeling. What we're going for is not just a product that makes you feel cool buying it in the store. It makes you feel something when you use it. And that's where we make that connection with the customer and start to build loyalty. And like you said, through authenticity and storytelling of our brand, why we're doing this, why we're here, has really what's made the difference for us in California. Because for us, when we first came in as Her Highness NYC, across the board, people were like, what? Why do we need NYC in California? And it was like, guys, we're trying to normalize cannabis. You shop at Barney's, New York. What do you mean? Why do you need NYC in California? You need it right now. And, getting that point across that, well, how are you really addressing women, not just with a pink pen? I mean, I like pink, but it's almost insulting that that's my solution in the, for our female offering, here's pink and here's low dose, but I love to get high. So that doesn't suit me at all. And sort of creating this product that is really by women for women, that speaks to women, and they get, oh yeah, my hair, every woman knows the smell of burnt hair and weed because the crutch is short and you light it and your hair goes up. And it's funny, whenever I say that, there's always a guy in the back with a beard who's like, thank you, sister, because men with a beard don't like it either. But, sort of being authentic, I really agree with you, and creating products that are really built for that customer so that when they use it, they know it and they feel your message and your mission is what makes a huge difference in this space.
The biggest issue that, Leaf Spice Snoop, Chong's Choice, Marley's Naturals, Willie's Reserve, the biggest problem they've had is they've banked off of one individual rather than looking at this like a community and understanding, okay, what is this individual tied to and why do people listen to this person's music or watch this person play basketball or whatever the case may be. It's like they take cannabis and then completely deviate from what it is that they're actually best at, right? Rather than leveraging the community they could be selling to, thus reducing their customer acquisition cost and their cost to keep a customer loyal, right? So at my agency, we have, brands that we build for clients, but we also are a brand house, right? We have CBD brands and THC brands. So we just signed a deal with Nate Robinson and Carlos Boozer. They're really good friends and they're really good friends of mine. And so, we did a 3-way joint venture. We're equal partners in this new LLC. And rather than making the brand about them, we're making it about how athletes recover after, basketball, fighting. And it's going to be more of a sophisticated brand like Dos Sakis, right? So it's going to be like the recovery products for athletes, but not an ice bath, right? It's something that's a lot more fun and relaxing and sure as hell makes you feel cool no matter how hard you lose or how hard you win, right? And so by doing that, we're able to take this culture of athletes and bring them in because they're endorsing something that's made for them, not made for Nate or made for Carlos. And that's the biggest issue, is that people have too big of egos and want, it to be all about them because it's a money grab. But when I work with celebrities doing brands, like Crazy Bone from Bone Thugs and Harmony, we are launching his brand Leaves of Legend. And so we have a whole album that we put together, a whole cannabis album. Every song is cannabis related. And so, whether we're, giving away music through a QR code, now we're giving, an additional incentive. So we're giving them product and free music. And so now we're working with labels to be able to give them the ability to advertise music through our packaging. And so now we have a marketing platform, right? So now it's a new revenue stream. So there's all of these different things that you can do. We've got with Nate and Carlos, we've got NFTs that people can win through the back of the packaging, and so, again, what we're doing is we're providing more value than what everyone else is providing, and we're giving somebody something for nothing. And what that does, if we're setting up these licensing deals in different states, it gives us more than just flower we're selling, but it gives us the ability to control our price point when shit does fluctuate. Excuse my language. But what it also does is it gives us the ability to connect with other people in our community and get the adoption from them as well. But hopefully that kind of, Alex, tells you a little bit more about how I would approach kind of the celebrity style brand versus what others have done to remain sustainability. And then the other part is social responsibility and packaging sustainability. People buy from brands who are more socially responsible.
Well, just to follow up, it's interesting because what your approach is, Jared, on celebrity brands, literally we get approached on a weekly basis about a celebrity that wants to launch their brand because they love cannabis. But what they're not willing to do sometimes is really get behind it and make it authentic or make it work. When I think of some celebrities that we would like to work with, one that comes to mind is Ricky Williams at the NFL. He was a running back and he used cannabis to recover after games. That would be the way that I think a celebrity could launch their brands. And then I'm going to pivot a little bit to the sustainability. We work hard on that to try and get our packaging as sustainable as we can. I think we also need some reform around the child resistance types of constraints that come in. We've recently launched a program here with Airfield, one of our customers, and Resynergy, about recycling some of the packaging that we have to use. So I'm fully behind how do we get to be a much more sustainable type of program. And I also look at how do you grow your cannabis? And I think that in the years to come, and it may be even quicker than that, we're going to find people that grow outdoors are viewed in a much different light than the ones that are growing indoors. And I think as an industry, we're going to have to come to grips on how we're going to approach that.